ट्राई कर ले।
अपने आप में शिफ्ट हो रहा है केवल
हाँ मैं मेरे यहाँ भी भेजते हैं हमको सौरभ लोग ने। कौन है स्मार्ट वाला?
ये आते हैं बाहर से हर्ष वगैरह आते हैं।
हर्ष वाला हर्ष तो हमारे यहाँ भी आएगा ना। तो उसको सौरभ ने बोला तो मंडे को आएगा। आया
मैं फोन किया मैंने उस दिन किसी मैडम ऐसे गुस्सा करेगी।
सभी गुस्सा करेगा, मैं ही गुस्सा हो जाती हूँ। मतलब हम लोग प्लान करके इन बच्चों के लिए किया हुआ है मैंने।
फ्राइडे और उसको बृहस्पतिवार को शायद आया था वो।
आया था वो
अपने करके गया?
नहीं मैम लगता तो नहीं आया तो था वैसे।
मैं नहीं बुलाया
नहीं तो मिले तो बुला देना। आ रहा है
जा तो रही है आपकी रिकॉर्ड हो जाएगी वैसे जब।
चलो देखो जितना हो जितना अब तुम इसको शुरू कर दो मेरा निकाल दो। कहाँ पे जाना है मुझे?
मैम आपको पीपीटी प्रेजेंट करनी है ना।
हाँ पीपीटी भी देखो मैंने चैट जीपीटी से बनाई है या ऐसे बनाई है। अभी बस आई मॉडिफाई इस पार्ट पर। आई ट्राइड।
मैम वो जो पीपीटी आपने दी थी वही वाली ना?
हाँ वही मैंने इसको ट्राई किया है। इनपुट्स मेरे हैं। प्रॉम्प्ट्स प्रॉपर होने चाहिए। प्रॉम्प्ट अगर प्रॉपर होगी क्लास में एजुकेशन बताइए तो पिक्चर बनाने के लिए टाइम नहीं। वो बैकग्राउंड पिक्चर है इसका डार्क बना के वो आई टू टिक दैट we can use AI education or help from others to make it has to be working. जितना पढ़ सकते हैं even if you're reading with this जितना पढ़ सकते हैं ना कोशिश करते हैं specify a time जितना पढ़ना चाहिए and don't overburden yourself.
मैं हूँ यहीं पे वैसे थोड़ा सा मैडम के रूम में भी एक मीटिंग होनी है वो मैं करके ठीक है जा रही
चलो अगली part. Okay. Now, if you see the title, what does it say? Demystifying management. So I have focused on management, right? Because you all are management students, so I will be only concentrating on the management aspect. Research may aspect, but it has to be the management aspect. Okay, everybody is comfortable with it. So demystifying management research. When we talk about management research, have to unfold the areas what is being covered in management. Demystify का मतलब क्या होता है? What is demystify? Yeah. Do you think? So research is all about finding the ways how these studies which have already been done can be done in a new format or something new can be brought into the format. So that is demystifying research. So when we talk about the roadmap, here we will be studying or we will be learning. It is interactive. I will be learning from you and you will be learning from me. Okay. So the roadmap will be navigating from philosophical foundations to the practical research applications in 30 minutes. We will be doing it in 30 minutes, right? मैंने ये टाइम इसलिए दे दिया था 30 minutes में आपको क्या क्या कवर करना है that will be. Now you see, there are research drives, informed decisions. So when we talk about management research, it is far more than the data. हमको रिसर्च के बारे में ये आइडिया है कि रिसर्च में हमको एम्पिरिकल स्टडी करना है, हमको डेटा कलेक्ट करना है, फिर डेटा को एनालाइज करना है, या फिर डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ मॉडल्स, we have to use different types of tools for analyzing the data, then we have to interpret the data, and then we have to do the finding. That is not the only thing. So it is not only data collection, it is interdisciplinary in nature, transdisciplinary. HR can be linked with data analytics, HR can be linked with marketing, HR can be linked with finance, HR can be linked with it can be or vice versa. Strategy can be linked with HR, strategy can be linked with finance, strategy can be linked with marketing, with operation or logistics or supply chain. Anything. So when we talk about transdisciplinary, the core definition of the research is it's a systematic, objective and transdisciplinary inquiry focused on analyzing data to improve decision. Inquiry में आप खोजेंगे, आप ढूंढेंगे, आप उसको inquire करेंगे, आप question करेंगे बात कि ये ऐसा क्यों है, ये ऐसा क्यों? Suppose this plant is there. You have to analyze, you are a botanist, you will analyze why this plant is growing this way. इसमें इतने सारे scales क्यों हैं? इसका structure इस तरह से क्यों? That is what we do. If you are doing the management research, suppose we are doing research, kind of research, HR, human relations में हमने करना चाहिए, human resources for human relations में हम convert कर सकते हैं. Suppose we want to understand what your peer group is thinking about you, about your personality, about your perceptions, about a certain thing. So there are different mindsets, there are different personalities. किसी को बहुत तेज गुस्सा आ जाता है, किसी को कम आता है, कोई काम करता है, बहुत टेक्निकल सिचुएशन. There are different kinds. अब inquire कैसे करेंगे? उस चीज को inquire. The research is all based on inquiry, and it is there to collect the data and analyze. Because you cannot collect the data for the whole group, you have to focus. As I was saying, you have to focus on a certain point of time. It is transdisciplinary integration. Yeah, interdisciplinary क्यों है? Why we integrate one thing with the other in management research? Because it combines insights from different areas of study, इसका तो मैं EEA, economic psychology, sociology, but you have different areas of study. Humanities भी आ जाती है. Management is all about art and science. It is both. It is not only art, it is not only science, it's a combination. So this is what is transdisciplinary integration. Now covering the strategic impact of inquiry. हम इंक्वायरी में कितना फोकस करते हैं, इंक्वायरी में कितना एफर्ट डालते हैं, that it becomes a new business. So quantifying the fundamental structural components of a rigorous management style. So first part जो आपको पहले पता है, that is the report. आप उस सब्जेक्ट, उस टाइटल, उस टॉपिक के बारे में कितना पढ़ते हैं, the more you have idea, the more you have this idea about that particular topic, you get a broader sense and what exactly should be your study. What should be the statement of problem? What should be the research questions? How you will frame the objectives on that. So that is what is a rigorous management study. The first is the core objectives: to develop knowledge, solve business problems, and improve decision making. रिसर्च में मैनेजमेंट रिसर्च का हमेशा फोकस डिसीजन मेकिंग पे है. साइंसेस में हमने हमेशा सुना होगा कि साइंसेस में हम रिजल्ट्स निकालते हैं, एक्सपेरिमेंट्स करते हैं, but फिर social sciences के लिए, specifically in management research, it is all about the system. It's not that only operations management relates. Our area of study is related to decision. So when we talk about decision making, you can use different methodological tactics. Different research methods can be used. In सबके details are particular in different sessions. आपको structure अगर आप see the structure goes like this in your study. You have different structures. You have qualitative analysis. You have quantitative analysis. You have mixed method approach. You have primary tools. You have secondary tools, which are used for the study. Many of you might be doing it. Many of you must have experienced this kind of research whereby making the projects. I don't know how many are MBAs, but in MBAs we do have the projects, and we have to do this kind of study, but it is for a very short term and it is very limited. The study is limited to maybe 50 or 70 times. So that is the methodological type. And the primary focus is on systematic finding out of things to increase the current quality. Now there is a concept called systematic literature. Systematic literature includes the combatant. So that is what we are talking about. There is a system, there is a flow for everything. Well, what is the flow? Systematic flow based idea. Magic things की बात जब हम कर रहे हैं, any idea, तो कैसे हम build करेंगे? Anybody? डरने की जरूरत? Anybody? Idea? Any idea? Come out. This is also. Step by step for explore
how the different dimensions of the new tools.
Now suppose we have to do a research. Any idea?
What is the technology that I'm using most?
नहीं, आप इसको start कैसे करें?
माउथ की डिस्प्ले और फिर उसके बाद देखिए कि इसका कैसे मॉडल्स एनालाइज होते हैं टाइम टू टाइम, फिर अभी डेटा क्या चलता है उसमें क्या न्यू एडिशन
हो जाता है. Yeah.
Before we start, you identify what operations there are. Okay, put it in procedure. Then seek to find out whatever question we have, if this component is working in a certain way, and question why is it happening or how is it happening. Then we proceed to find out existing questions that have been put out, similar questions similar answers, or we do this. If there aren't any answers, then we seek to find out people. So information with regards to answers in form format, chapters, formulations, right? That's how we find out answers.
Yes. So that's good that you understand what exactly it is, but if I am to tell you how to do the systematic study on amount, I would first of all, as we said, I will first of all start with the evolution of the rules. How it evolved. What was the basis of the earth? Right? So that would be the first step in that. And then we will come to the description. Similarly, it happens in the search process also. So when we are deciding something on a certain topic, even when you are reaching to a topic, you have to do a systematic study. If you want to finalize a topic, then also you have to do it. उसके बाद literature review आए. पहले आप study करेंगे, फिर literature review आए. So you have to have an idea of what the broader idea is. Will it help in decision making? That also has to be questioned. जैसे HR में work life stress बात. वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस में तो बहुत सारी स्टडी यहाँ पर तो नया डाटा. अब HR डेटा एनालिटिक्स है. Everybody is studying that. What will you do? Now AI is managed is also coming. How will you help AI in management? That also is coming up. So what new you can add on to the existing study, that will decide for us. So when we talk about the systematic finding, you have to do a systematic study before finalizing the topic of your study. That is very, very important. You have to focus on the topic. क्योंकि ideas बहुत मिलते हैं. यहाँ पे suppose you generate something through AI and you have n number of topics available. But how do you know that some study has been done on that topic? That also is a kind of a research. So जब आप topic finalize करते हैं, that is also that will be the first phase. Got my point? Shall we go further? Any questions? Now, see the purpose of systematic study. हमने कर लिया अपना topic. Now we need to understand why. As he said, he have said why, how, when, where, what. That's the concept of strategic management. So, what is the purpose of systematic discovery? The first purpose is transforming all the raw observations into actionable management insights. आपके objectives हैं, आपने अपने purpose को उसको transform किया है सारी study को, जिससे decision making हो सके, उसके हम action लेते हैं. If there is no action, if there is no decision making, then it will not be us. So, if you see, the first part is knowledge generation. Knowledge generation कब होता है? जब आप topic decide करें. Got my point? Is it clear? Very, very clear. Knowledge generation contributing to the existing body of management knowledge through rigorous data analysis. अब data किस तरह का इसमें हम ले रहे हैं? जब आप topic finalize करें, this is I'm just find topic finalization की बात करते हैं. डेटा किस तरह का लेंगे? सिस्टमैटिक डेटा, जो आपका स्टडी से क्वालिटेटिव डेटा आता है, तो आप पढ़ रहे हैं, नॉलेज गेन कर रहे हैं, आइडियाज गेन कर रहे हैं. Because all these three aspects will be applicable throughout the research. If once you finalize the topic, then also this will be applicable. आपका last stage तक ये तीनों steps available, and you have to be focusing on these steps. The first is knowledge generation, second is problem solving, identifying and resolving specific operational or strategic hurdles within business environment. आपके environment में क्या hurdles आ रहे, there are limitations. हर study का आप subject नहीं कर सकते हैं, आपको specific area choose करने पड़ेगी. Suppose it's from Lucknow, you prefer to do the study in Lucknow. उनको आइडिया ज्यादा है वहां पे, आप दिल्ली से हैं, आपको दिल्ली का आइडिया ज्यादा है, अब दिल्ली में स्टडी करना पसंद करेंगे बिकॉज यू नो द लोकेशन, यू नो द आइडिया फ्रॉम ओके या उनको वहां पे ज्यादा कम्युनिकेट करेंगे। तो whosoever आपका कन्वीनियंस भी इससे इम्पोर्टेंट, right? So that is problem solving. And third one is the decision support, providing empirical insights that enable managers to make data-driven outcomes. हमारी जो choices है उसमें हम क्योंकि decision हमेशा choice जहाँ पे choice नहीं होती है वहाँ होता है because you don't have any option, आपको वो करना ही करना। If you have option, how are you going to discuss? How are you going to find out those? That हम करते हैं। तो वो ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल आपके पास चाहिए रिसर्च तब आप Got my point? Any questions till now? Shall we move further? Yes. Now coming to the philosophical roots which shape the results for research. The paradigm you choose determines how you view reality and how you gather it. आपका जो rational thought है किसी टॉपिक के बारे में वो डिसाइड करेगा कि आपकी रिसर्च फर्दर कैसे। If there is no rational thought, then there will be no ideas. So the first part, the tension between positivism, objective reality, and interpretism. ये जो दो aspects हैं, these are philosophical aspects. Positivism and interpretism. Positivism means objective reality क्या है, interpretism is that subject reality क्या है, how you interpret it, how you approach towards the object, approach and the that becomes the philosophical root for the whole of your study. ठीक है, whole of your study. Journal बनेगा फिर, देखिए the point. Now, positivism means seeking objective truth. Assuming a single objective reality that can be measured and generalized. Now again, very important point is when you're choosing the objective situation, abstract objectives are needed. Better there is no concept of abstract objective. Objective का मतलब है you have, but there are cases where we have seen that they have framed the objective, but it doesn't. So objectives should be measurable in nature. Measurable जरूरी नहीं है quantifiable. क्योंकि जब measurement की हम बात करते हैं, so we talk about quantity. But measurement scales पे भी हो सकता है on the qualitative data, right? So it should be measurable in nature. First is the scientific model, which is derived from natural sciences and focuses on quantifiable data. And then there are key objectives for value-free and generalizable results to predict phenomena and causal relations. This is applicable in social sciences. This is applicable in management policy. आपको relationship develop करना है. Economics, managerial economics पढ़ी है ना? Demand supply chain पढ़ा है. जब demand बढ़ती है तो कौन price hike. Price is relation, the relation words now that positive relation. So relationship किसमें develop हुआ? Causal relationship में develop हुआ? Demand and price, right? Here, similarly, it happens in business. You have to develop a relationship. You have to जैसे correlation की बात करते हैं, predictive analysis. There are different kinds of technology where you can use yourself. तो आप जब रिलेशनशिप की बात करते हैं, you have to develop the relationship. कि आपका जो ऑब्जेक्टिव है, उसको आप मेजर कर रहे हैं, तो the variables कौन से? Whether those variables have some kind of relation, then you are going to frame the hypothesis. Hypothesis also hypothesis को justify कर रही है, नहीं कर रही है तो क्यों नहीं कर रही है? So all these aspects have to be understood. Yes. Yeah. समझ रहा है? Any objection है और any question है? किसी को भी कुछ डाउट है तो इमीडिएटली पूछ सकते हैं आप. और generalizable results की बात क्यों कर रहे हैं? Why we are talking about generalizable results? So that it
It is applicable to everything.
Yes, it is applicable to everywhere and the scope is broader. उसमें फिर आगे भी जाके लोग कर सकते हैं. This is the base. Clear? Yes.
अगर आप जनरलाइज करते हैं
Yes. The inductive approach is one form. It is one form. It is a one form. It is a case study. That is inductive. So there are possibilities to any deductive भी हो सकती है, inductive भी हो सकती है. It depends on the study ritual. But ये आपको तब realize होगा when you go to the data. जब आप study के आगे धीरे-धीरे बढ़ते, तब आपको realize होगा what kind of study. If you see the social lens, you have to find out whether it is applicable to the generalized survey. Public को applicable है. Sciences में it is very easy. Sciences में आप क्या करते हैं? जैसे vaccine बनाना, आप test करते हो, experiment करते हो. You have samples for the form of people COVID में हमारे साथ हुआ था. Vaccine कैसे बनी? Right? It is easier there. But when we talk about management sciences, management में कभी-कभी थोड़ा सा दिक्कत होती है. Because the personality traits of each individual is ठीक है ना. तो जब आप perception की बात करते हैं तो आप उसको generalize करने की कोशिश करते हैं कि वो ऐसा सोचता है इसके बारे में. So if you have majority of results in favor of it, you generalize that results that people are thinking. And in management sciences, when we generalize the results, it's a manufacturing industry, it's automobiles one. I'm giving you the example of automobiles. The cars are made, when the cars are being made, the cars का feedback study कैसा होता है? यही होता है कि whether the customer is happy with the model car. होता है ना इस तरह से? You can give any other example. आपको example सोच पाते हैं? HR में कोई सोचेगा, logistics में कोई सोचेगा, strategy में कोई सोचेगा, finance में सोचेगा. You can give any example. Anybody? Come up with an example. Delivery time. I'll give you a very good example of Zomato and Swiggy. वो ऐसे तो नहीं शुरू हो गया. Feedback तो लिया होगा पहले. Perception लिया होगा. And people are like it. Big basket. So you have different models in management. Management में beauty ये है. In sciences में क्या है कि it's concentrated. Management में the beauty is it is so broad that you can relate it to different. So वो idea जब आप आता है ना, then you realize how beautiful the whole subject in itself. So how you develop that understanding, how you develop that mindset towards your research makes it happen. So therefore, you have to socially construct human interaction and individual perspective. Here, individual perspective is your research structure, and human interaction is with the public. Okay? Individual perspective is yours, but then the biases should come. ये ऐसा ही होगा अगर आप ये सोच के चलने लगे, then the research will not be good. You have to keep yourself confident. There may be possibilities there. Those possibilities may how that is the your mind. ये आपको दिमाग में रख के चलना पड़ेगा. ठीक है? Now coming to the another aspect, we will see the research paradigms and we will see the differences between positivist and negativist approaches. And when we talk about different models, you see, if we see the reality. The reality is objective and single in positivism. First part is the first column is positivism. I have left it blank for you to decide, though I have told you what it is. I have left it blank for you to decide the objective and single concept that will be positive. And subjective and multiple that will be negative. So if you see this matrix, you will find your research will be based on that. Your research will be based on this matrix. Your goal or objective should be explain and predict. Positivism में आप explain करेंगे और interpretism में you will understand and try to interpret. जैसे आपने factor approach बताया, या case study approach बताया, so you have to understand it because the study is already there, the case is already there in front of you. Financial analysis, finance वाले, financial analysis में आप कौन सा approach use करें? Quantitative data use करेंगे, पर कौन सा इन दोनों में से कौन सा करेंगे? क्या positivism approach और आप मेरे को जैसा आप जो भी कहेंगे आपको जस्टिफाई करना है बस दैट्स इट जो अगर इंटरप्रिटेशन करेगा उसको जस्टिफाई करना है
So we have the certain data, and we on certain data we are achieving the certain results, and on certain results we may say that it is on positivism, and in interpretivism where there is certain data and certain data cannot be differed. If we collect data from the market and the data cannot differ, then there is not subjectivity.
इंटरप्रिटेशन में सब्जेक्टिविटी है
मैम इंटरप्रेटिव मैम डेटा पे इंटरप्रेटिविज्म लगाना हम कैसे कर सकते
फिर वही बताइए ना आपने जस्टिफाई किया एनीबॉडी एल्स
individual perspective. If, for example, Chesapeake financial,
suppose we have to analyze financial data
हैं? If we have a thought में मैम subjectivism हो सकता है कि you have different thoughts on a particular point and I have different point of
interpret different
लेकिन हम डेटा में ऐसा नहीं कर सकता इसीलिए
while जब हम रेशियो निकालते तो हम उनको अंडरस्टैंड करते हैं और वो रिलेशन फॉर्म से इंटरप्रेट
देख आप इनको डिफाइन कर रहे हैं वी आर टेक दैट इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल यस
Ma'am, focusing on second point, understand and interpret ratios are understand within or interpretation within. What is the condition?
anybody else इसी के पॉइंट पे लिखा है इवेंट ऑन द थर्ड
Data देखेंगे तो quantity.
so data is quantitative in nature
it's not
it's not objective then it's not interpretive
It's positive.
event to the third point and so interpretism में what he is saying is we have जो कि qualitative data जब होता है qualitative मतलब हमने कुछ पढ़ा उसको जनरलाइज किया उसके बारे में सोचा उसके बारे में समझा and then we decide to understand and then we decide what the decision. In quantitative data, what happens is we have the measurable terms. We apply certain rules, we measure it, and then after measuring, after कुछ values आई, based on those values, we right? So methodology is quantitative in positivism and interpretative in qualitative. So financial data should be positive, based on positive.
If we are doing research on the behavioral, right, and then we more quantitative data, both will they're more
Qualitative भी होगा,
There is
quantitative.
there is qualitative data is more individual.
Yes. But there is empirical study also that doesn't only give you data. Then in that
But this is quantitative.
then in that case it makes sense.
Yeah.
It will be a combination. The two. Ashwata को कोई डाउट होना है want to ask or you try to analyze it. Ashwata, anything? Clear? ये कुछ गड़बड़ है? ये देखो anything can go wrong. It's okay, but that is research. Research cannot be you cannot be say even in case study you cannot say it is yes or no. Your idea will be different, your idea will be different, my idea will be different. Decision can be anything around that. Right? Case study would be different. Though we have data in that, but then also it is interpretation. Researcher's role क्या होगा इसमें? In positivism, it is independent observer, and in interpretism, it is the acknowledged part. Why acknowledged participant? Anybody?
We are collecting data from different sources, and there is different thoughts of different people. So what they are acknowledging, on that basis we are deriving data. So this is
What they are thinking, we are acknowledging that.
yes.
What they are here to discuss. What they are thinking, what their perception, we are acknowledging that perception as a perception of the participant, and then keeping it in the analysis. This is the now see the quantitative. It is the power of number. Did it come to है? वाला कहते हैं ना कि such as that. You see the puzzle? It's like a puzzle. You have all the elements, but how you have to place it to make it in a pieces format, that is what. It's just like this. आपने एक ट्यूब कहीं गलत लगाया, पूरी की पूरी रिसर्च आपकी इधर. Got my point? So it is a numerical precision and hypothesis testing. I'm not in favor of hypothesis more क्योंकि bias हो जाता है सर, लेकिन कई जगह जैसे behavioral hypothesis. Finances में हमको financial management में hypothesis को नहीं लाना. Hypothesis testing में you have to use the surveys and experiments to establish the cause and effect relationship between the variables के बीच में हमें cause and effect build करना. Whether this is true or not. If it is justified, you give the reason. If it is not justified, give the reason. For everything, there should be a reason. Whatever you write on the research part, you have to justify why you are writing that. That is very, very important. We focus on that only. Especially in management school, I always say that whatever goes into the writing part, it has to be justified. You give the argument to words. You gave the argument to words in interpretism, he gave the argument to words in interpretism. Now it's up to us to decide whether that argument is good or not. But you have to be confident enough. You have to be very, very convincing in whatever. आप खुद से उठा के बोलिए. Whatever, you just don't think, just don't copy things. Has to be very, very argumentative and unique. You must have read a book. I don't know if you have read it now. You must go through that. They does series, but argumentative. If you read that book, you will realize how research is done. His perspective, I may not agree whatever he has said in that. But he has the arguments towards whatever he has mentioned in that. There are similar kind of books available. So you have to analyze those. The good thing is that you agree with us. Whatever I'm teaching, you may not agree with what my thought. But I have to be convincing enough that you agree to it. That is what it is. Okay? जो भी आप उसमें लेके आ रहे हैं, that is so convincing that the person sitting on the other side is agreeable to whatever you are speaking. Got my point? Shall we move further? Now, if you do the quantitative research, you have different ways to do it. It's statistical modeling, it is controlled experiments, structured circuits. Now, when we are talking about controlled experiments mostly happen with sciences. There is a controlled environment. But in behavioral sciences also there is a controlling part. But that happens in a large lab. But in behavioral sciences also you can have control experiment. So you have testing variables like marketing effectiveness or pricing strategies in the systematically. A controlled environment you are part of it. Controlled environment you can also have financial. Behavioral science is a controlled environment is a perception that suppose you have certain set of people. You want to understand that music therapy is effective. For that is what happens. Okay, music therapy is effective for people having fun. So you are in controlled environment. If you have a sample of say 200 people, you are going to 100 people will be having IQ, and 100 people will not have. And then you are going to, or all the people will be. And you are going to use music therapy on those people. So ye, I can understand why you asked this question, because when we are talking about the perception, we are talking about the question and from administrative understanding over the larger population. But if we are talking about music therapy has to be in a controlled environment. आप उसको study कैसे करोगे? You have to have a certain lab where people are placed. In behavioral sciences and behavioral sciences, there are a number of such studies which have been done. How the behavior changes with using certain software, certain models, certain parameters. If you are talking about simple empirical study, that is it. ये एक नया आइडिया आपको आ सकता है कि आप उसको भी यूज कर एक सर बता के गए कि you can use your knowledge, your culture, your different aspects in your research. This can be one. So controlled experiments जब हम marketing effectiveness और pricing strategies की बात करते हैं, so they are always there. ऐसे लगा कि there are environmental factors, there are internal industry analysis, there are internal factors which affect the pricing strategies of the organization. Market is always derived or always dependent on the topic. Jैसे with the geopolitical state happening, geopolitical instability happening, the markets are changing. So the environment is unstable. उसको आप कैसे कर? उसके एक एरिया लोगे आप कर सकते हो. So whether you study the state, whether you study the market, whether you study or the statistical department. That can be done. You have structured surveys, questionnaires, interviews, you have schedules through which you can do that. This is just a brief of the point. Qualitative में क्या होता है? We uncover the deep meanings, exploring the why and how behind human behavior in organizations. This is one example of it. But in qualitative data, qualitative study is always based on knowledge. So it can apply to any field. Generally, हम उसको human behavior में करते हैं, but it can be applied to any field. Qualitative. So it is in-depth understanding and it is a naturalistic inquiry. Anybody on naturalistic inquiry? Anybody?
What is happening in society in a natural way?
Okay. Any? Okay. Anybody?
And how you particularly and actively behave in a situation so that you don't give it unbiased. So you don't do bias.
Okay, if you behave in a situation, you give a bias. You behave in a situation.
Naturally, people
आपका identity क्या है? The naturalistic inquiry is like you are studying something. Like I gave you an example of the book. I may not agree with the thoughts of the author, but the author's naturalistic inquiry is being mentioned. So that is very, very important. So you have to observe also. सिर्फ data लेके नहीं आना. Observation is also. Even the financial data needs to be observed. Even it needs to be observed. Why would we say that in financial data it should not be less than 10 years? Our trend analysis करना. That is observed. How it is progressing or declining? Whatever. Why it is progressing? Why is it declining? Have to find out. That perception also can change. Right? Clear? Qualitative data collection, you have to have a rich narrative data to understand complex social dynamics. इसमें narrative narration की एक qualitative data पे when we study the qualitative data, we talk about storytelling. And research is also. So आपका narrative होता है, आपकी source होता है. Research is all storytelling. So you have unstructured interviews, you have focus groups, you have case studies. This is the way you can gather apart from the literature. Apart from the literature. In unstructured interviews, suppose आप लखनऊ में based हैं, वहाँ पे सबको people are not so aware of the language. So how are you going to converse with them with the data? You have to use it. One of my students did the study on financial inclusion, and the student was he structured the interview in Korean language, Hindi language, English language, and Korean. So that the data, because he studied that particular area, that was the focus group, and then he did the study using the local language. So you can use the local language also for the interview. It is not necessary that you use Korean.
We will not be able to
Get that. Derive the data, get the data, get the proper information. That is more important. Research, you need to have a proper information about what is the concept. If you have informed decisions available, it will be easier for you to. Then case studies are always there. You also have these sessions separately also. Right? I don't take much time. These are mixed methods. Mixed methods where you have both quantitative and qualitative. Most of the studies we are very mixed. Combining the strengths of both quantitative and qualitative data. That is numerical and narration. So it is integration of strengths and it enhances the credibility. Even in financial management, we suggest that you use the qualitative. The financial management is other studies qualitative. So they are secondary nature. Courses science secondary, but the studies are not. The perception people have that all the quantitative data is primary. No. Primary data is only the 80%. Only the 80%. That is the company. This is the way to design the mixed method studies. You have to have a sequential design, you have a concurrent design, you have an implementation. First phase is using qualitative data. Second phase is using quantitative data. And third phase is combining both the data. That's it. You will learn all this. Clear? Any questions on this? No? Now, this is the systematic research cycle which you are going to follow in the next 4 years of your 4 years. I am assuming that in 4 years you will be out of this university with a PhD. This is what I am assuming, and I am hoping for the best. Right? उससे ज़्यादा आप लोगों को लिखने की ज़रूरत नहीं है आप ठीक है जल्दी से करते हैं. So this is the first part, identifying the problem, review of literature, objectives, designing the research, analyzing the data, and part. So this is what you are going to do in the in the time period will be here. Okay, clear? And you have different sub stages also. And those stages will be discussed in the topic research. This is defining the gap. I'll just move through it because we just finished off. This is the first critical step most. जितने भी studies आप करेंगे उसमें आप देखेंगे कि क्या है जो नहीं. That always comes through observation. Don't use AI. Use your brain. Use your observation. Use your time. Right? And that then you have to identify the problem and then you start the experiment. Then coming to the execution part, which is using the tools that you will decide later, and the reliability test is to be there, validity test has to be there. All these are the part of the research which you are going to set at this beginning. So that you have familiarity. You are familiar with the idea, what you have, you are supposed to do. Now, when we talk about evolution of management theory, you will find applying research. I'm just giving an example. See, applying research in marketing. There must be market, there may be market. So, how? This is one example. Transforming consumer perceptions into competitive advantage. Any example of this?
For example,
Okay.
chatbots for
Okay.
connecting with customers.
Okay. Okay. I'll give you a very simple example. iPhone.
Yes, I understand.
What is it?
Optimization.
और उसका ये है कि once you use it, get it. If you don't use it, it's fine. Once you use it, you get it. It's like brand start, building that brand start. This is one kind of business. I'm just giving you an example. I'm just opening the right. They can be market trends, they can be consumer behavior. iPhone की जब iPhone नया निकलता है तो लाइन ऐसी चार पे दिखती है. On the first day. Behavior. So you have ample amount of. When I teach, then I realize there are so many things which need to be done. So when you do the study, since you have an option to do newer studies than whatever happened, so you can open your mind to see what is happening. In the management. If you have the finance, you can leverage the empirical studies to forecast the demand, to optimize the profit. If you optimizing the profits of the crux of financial management, reducing the cost and optimizing the loss. That's the crux of the management. So there can be ideas about it. You can come up with more ideas. If it is in strategic management, you have to see how you can build a competitive advantage for the organization. Uniqueness is every individual, but you have to portray how you work. What is so unique about it that I get it back? Similar with happy, right? You have research in human resources. You have to find out this is one example. Organizational culture, developing targeted interventions to improve the work environment based. How you can improve work? I'm just giving you that. There can be any number of studies. Operations management, how you create values for individuals, organizations, and studies. You must be wondering why I wrote it for creating value. There is a value chain analysis. Operation curve. If you buy a car, whether you are satisfied with that car, that is the crux of building that or manufacturing that, okay. Or a bike, or a bike. So, how you manufacture that, whether it is serving the product goods, whether it is giving value to the customer, whether it is beneficial for the organism. That is all about end-to-end chemical. That is all about. So, this is the current stage of management research, which I found out somewhere. This is explored in other subjects. It's a part of strategic management. After talking about, where you have to find out the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and every research. It is up to cross the research. So you can see there are rigorous tools, there are design challenges, there are transdisciplinary tools, there is ethical complexity. Now, ethics is very, very important. That is also one part of something which you are going to study. Here. Now, these are misconceptions clarifying what management research is not to ensure for. First, it's not just data. It's not only for corporates. It's qualitative. Qualitative is scientific. In our case, this qualitative is considered to be scientific. That is why we always say management is art as well as math. Yeah, so corporates, it's not that the corporates they are studying to build in the competitive advantage. You also have your own business as a customer, as a consumer, whatever. There's a difference between the two, right? Anything else? That's another part of the discussion. So, this is a philosophical thought why we are committing to management research. Management research aims to provide an understanding of phenomena, addressing the urge to live well, to live better. So, this has been given by, I missed out the part. So, this is the basic idea where transforming management practice is the power of systematic and objective inquiry, which goes forth to build a better, more efficient world with rigorous academic knowledge. Here, you are going to do the practical research. You are not doing the corporate. That's very difficult. So, this is all I have to tell you about here. So, in this lecture, it was just a generalization. What exactly what is our expectation of this? Okay. So thank you so much for taking much of your time. So we will just wind up one portion and I almost finished. Right? So any questions till now? Right? ठीक ठाक लग रहा है? Comfortable लग रहा है? डर लग रहा है? नहीं लग रहा है? Comfortable? So let's go to NCIE. पता है NCIE का हमारा स्कूल है? देख है? Because they must not be they must be this way भूल जाते हैं भूल गए पैदल सब लोग चले जाओ पीछे से हमारा स्कूल जो है ब्लॉक ये ब्लॉक जी है ब्लॉक नीचे नीचे ग्राउंड फ्लोर में ही है by the time I'm reaching because I have thank you for being the class. Hope it was interesting. Because